guys, Christian the Haver Card Man coming back at you with another video today, and this time I want to give my thoughts on the state of Yu-Gi-Oh! But before we get into that, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you guys can stay updated on all of my future content, and also just to show your support for the channel. You guys are really killing it with how much you have been supporting my channel from the start, and I love each and every single one of you. So thank you guys so much for all the love you've been showing this channel, and while you're down there, you might as well also check the links down in the description to all of the other content creators that I'm involved with, and all the other channels I'm involved with, like the Coalition of Scrubs and Team Chaos Stream. And like I said, all the other individual content creators that I'm with are down there as well. If you have not seen the Coalition of Scrubs or you don't know what it is, it's just another Yu-Gi-Oh! Channel where me and several other content creators get together and make you guys some awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. And Team Chaos Stream is just where I upload my Yu-Gi-Oh! Replays. Mostly from EDO Pro, but sometimes there might be some from other sources. We'll see. So anyways, let's go ahead and get on in today's video about the state of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, personally, I have heard so many complaints about where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is right now, with all of the different levels of power creep and all the new stuff coming out that's just super generic and super cheap. You know, like especially with Numerons coming out of Battles of Legend Armageddon, creating a super easy one-card combo that could bring out an S0 Utopic Zexal in any deck. And yes, while it is very toxic to the state of the game, I still think that setting that aside, we are actually sitting in a pretty good spot. I know a lot of people really have a lot of problems with like the really long turns, like the 5-10 minute turns of just combos, and that's understandable. I can understand being frustrated with that, especially if you're a control player and you just set a couple cards and pass. It definitely can be infuriating to sit there and just watch your opponent go through this entire turn and not really feeling like you're being able to control the game or actually do what you want to do. That is understandable. I do get that, especially when you've got a couple of the decks dominating the format right now, that being Eldritch, Adamancipator. We've started to see Altergeist get a little bit higher up there. Salamangreat's still pretty high. Just all these kind of dominating decks of the format. Like if you're not playing one of those, you're most likely not going to win. But I think Konami's actually starting to do a pretty good shift, and they're starting to give really good support to some decks that like really need it. And I know I'm really late on this game. I wanted to make a video about this before, but if you guys didn't see the last update video, my editing setup kind of screwed up on me, so I didn't really have the chance to do a video on it. But Prank Kids are actually getting some awesome support in Phantom Rage. If you guys are new to this channel, I am a huge fan of Prank Kids. I literally have a playlist just dedicated to Prank Kids, whether it be deck building, duels, discussions. I do a lot of Prank Kids stuff because I love Prank Kids. And their new Link 1 that's coming in Phantom Rage has me super excited. But that's just like, that's an example of them giving support to these lower tier decks and making them a little bit more viable. Probably not tier 1 or even tier 2, but at least making them fit more comfortably into that rogue strategy. Especially you're looking at stuff like, there's entirely new strategies coming out like Tri-Brigade. That's been a really popular one lately, actually, the Tri-Brigade archetype. And I think I've seen a lot of people, I'm pretty sure that's the Wing Beast one. It's just been like really cool support, and I really like the idea of the archetype. I noticed they've also been doing Phantom Knight support, and they were also tying it in with Raid Raptors, if I remember right. I haven't done too much research into that, but I know that they are doing what they can to at least boost up some of these older, lower tier strategies. Now, of course, this is still going to affect a couple of higher tier strategies, not so many of them, because the lower tier ones that they're affecting are a little bit more niche. Like, they're definitely locking it into more stuff like the Raid Raptors and the Phantom Knights and all that stuff. They're trying to make it more specific to that than they are, you know, making it generic stuff like Dragoon and Red Eyes, which is another thing I wanted to talk about today. The 2020 Megatons coming out this month. I think it was towards the end of the month they're coming out, and we are going to be seeing Dragoon everywhere. This card is going to be nuts. All you need is just to be able to throw out a Predator Plant Verte Anaconda at the end of a turn, and you can just make an extra Omni Negate that just gets bigger every time you negate and can get a couple of pops. Like, this card is the definition of generic power creep. Obviously, it's not as powerful as the Numeron archetype and that whole engine. That's a whole different story, and like, you know, I understand it, but so many people just want to play more so for fun, and nothing about the Numeron engine is fun. It's just a one card, either S0 turn skip, or it's a one card OTK, provided there's enough stuff on the field. And it's just ridiculous either way. The whole Numeron engine, that is the one problem I have right now with the state of the game. I can live with Adamancipators. I can live with Eldritch. I can live with Dragoon. But Numerons? Like, that is, I think that is the only complaint I really have with the state of the game right now. Because at least with Adamancipator and Eldritch, they're their own single archetype, right? Well, Adamancipator, you get like kind of the Rock Synchro variant, which is just a huge combo chain thing, and it's just ridiculous. there's a whole other discussion that can be made on that. Eldritch is a really good control deck, just really consistent and really offensive in terms of being a control deck, surprisingly enough. But it's too splashable, and that's, I mean, I wouldn't say too splashable, but it is splashable, so it's easier to play in other decks. I think that's one of the biggest reasons Eldritch does so good, is because it is a fairly compact engine if you build it right, and then you can have room for a bunch of other stuff, which is pretty nice about it. And you've got like the whole Dogmatica archetype coming out. I really prefer the name Dragma, not gonna lie, but I can live with Dogmatica. Their whole like anti-meta is going to really help out a lot in the state of the game. Like if you're going against Numerons and you're able to go first with Dogmatica, you do have a pretty good chance of winning that game. But if they have another engine in there, which most Numeron players are, nobody's really playing an actual Numeron deck unless you're Team Sam. It's better to play it with other engines, like playing it with Eldritch or Invoked or Dogmatica. You know, there's a whole other engines to play it with, because you don't really need that much for the Numeron engine. But yeah, Dogmatica is, I think, a pretty good play against the Numeron engine if you can go first. If you go second, you're probably pretty screwed. Like there are counters to playing against the Numeron engine, like running No Material, Imperm if you can hit the S0 in response to its activation and they don't have something to negate it. Some cases you can do a Nibiru if they're trying to play for the No Material. So there are circumstances which you can out this engine, but they're very niche and very expensive. 3 copies of Nibiru right now is still like 36 bucks. I know that's pretty cheap for some people, but for like the really budget player, that is a lot of money, especially if they're just going to end up throwing it in the side deck. A lot of people aren't going to want to invest that much in the side deck. No Material, I haven't checked. I think it's still sitting at like $15. It's been a little while since I've looked at that one because I've never owned a copy, and I've never thought about owning a copy, so that's a whole different story entirely. There is a trap card coming out, I believe, in Phantom Rage that's going to be pretty much a counter to the Numeron engine, but that, once again, that only works if you're going first. So there's a whole bunch of different stuff, and really, I think for the most part, combo decks are fine. Sure, the turns may take a little while, but I mean, that just, for me, as the level of player I am, that gives me more time to learn about the game. As I watch these long combo sequences, I learn more stuff for my own strategies, and I also am learning how to combat these strategies in the future, knowing what to run, knowing when to use those things, and I feel like it's just a good learning experience for sure. And it definitely pushes players to be a little bit more creative. And the thing with combo chains is you have to remember like these long sequences of combos. If you screw up even one thing, you can end up throwing the whole thing off entirely, and it just doesn't end up the way you wanted it to anymore. I think that's probably the biggest thing about combo decks. It's usually better to play control because, well, right now we're going to be in a heavy control format once again with Dragoon and Numeron going into the Utopic Zexal, Eldritch, Altergeist, all these decks being huge, and they're all like control oriented, but they also can play very easy combo variants because they're smaller engines, so they can fit other stuff into them. Dogmatica is going to be the same thing. I think that's only like a 7 to 9 card main deck slots, and you only need like maybe a couple extra deck for stuff to pitch to the graveyards and get bonus effects like Entis and Wind Pegasus and Ignister. You know, some of those things you can just pitch to the graveyard and get their effects. But overall, I think the state of the game is pretty fine, barring the Utopic Zexal combos. Really, I think as long as we ban Utopic Zexal, the state of the game can actually be pretty solid, because Numerons overall aren't that intimidating, unless they're going second, of course, without Utopic Zexal. If there's no Utopic Zexal, Numerons are definitely not as powerful as they could be. Sure, they can still do a lot in terms of being able to trigger you out 4 materials, so you can just get an easy 4 and get Apollosa if you feel like going that way. Or if you're going second, you can OTK. So there are still possibilities of playing Numeron, but it's not as overpowered as it currently is. And that is my thought process. So let me know what you guys think of the state of the game down in the comments. I'm really curious to see what your guys' opinions. I really love creating these open discussions that kind of allows everyone to just kind of voice how they feel. And I really think that this is an interesting topic, talking about the current state of the game in August of 2020. Because it is such a weird time. We're like right in the middle of all this different stuff with huge products bringing a whole bunch of new stuff to the game, and just kind of, they're slapping us almost as hard as 2020 is as a year. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to click that link and like and subscribe button down below. Your guys' support has been incredible to me so far, and I love each and every single one of you for it. So that being said, remember to have fun and make your move. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm a love giver,